Welcome back to another episode of Around the W, our show dedicated to the WNBA, to women's basketball. I am your main host, Stacey Caitlin II, joined by once again the great Caitlin Mendona. Caitlin, how you doing today?
I'm doing great, Stacey. How are you?
I'm doing good. Where you at? Are you at a park or something? Was that just like a background screen?
No, it's not a background screen. I'm actually in central New York for my internship this summer.
Oh, nice.
And it's pretty nice view. There's a lot of space, so I'm on the outdoor patio right now.
Okay, yeah, it looks very peaceful back there. I see some gray clouds. Hopefully it don't rain while you know,
I know
outside,
it's supposed to just be cloudy, but I guess you never know with the weather. But we'll see.
Yeah. But we got a fantastic episode. We got to talk about what the hell is going on with the Chicago Sky. And I got a fun little quiz. I know you're very knowledgeable about the W, but I just want to test it a little bit. But first, let's just talk about the first week of action in the WNBA. So a lot of things going on. I want to touch on real quick. I was looking at the Storm and the Mercury game one night. I didn't know it was that deep of like animosity, like a rival between those two teams. I mean, they was like going at it. Like, what's her name? Erica Williams, I think she was barking at the Mercury, and yeah, I didn't know it was that crazy. Did you know it was that crazy?
No, I mean, I knew that these teams kind of like, were very competitive towards each other, but I didn't think it was that bad. But that kind of also seems to be a recurring theme starting this season. It seems a lot of players or teams just have really strong emotions and reactions to, refs calls or what's happening on the court with other players. And it seems to be kind of a lot, just kind of passion maybe is the word for it. And a lot of these teams are coming out swinging, especially the players. I think they're trying to make, a name for themselves because, some teams, the roster cuts are pretty bad as well. A lot of the rookies can't seem to make that final roster, or a lot of people are getting cut that maybe shouldn't have gotten cut, or a lot of uncertainty about why they're getting cut. So yeah, I didn't think that rivalry was that bad, and I guess it's a lot of animosity. I don't know.
Yeah, it's crazy. I mean, it's great, but at the same time, I just didn't know. Like, I knew the ladies were competitors at the top level, but I didn't know it was like that, like some real beef on the court. Let's just talk about something that really stood out to us first week of the WNBA 2025 season. What was that storyline that you were following the first week? Like, you really was impressed or surprised in a bad way about what's going on?
So there were two kind of things that I was monitoring. I wanted to see how Napheesa Collier would start off the season with the Lynx. And I didn't really have doubts, but I just think that she's well on her way to winning an MVP, or definitely solidifying herself as the MVP candidate. What she's doing with that team in leading them the way she is, she looks like she wants revenge from last season. She is a woman on a mission right now, and she's doing everything in her power to try and take that team to the next level in, week out. And it's honestly really great to see. She's such a leader, a competitor, and this Lynx team, they're back. Even though they maybe didn't do too much in the offseason compared to other teams, it's relatively the same team in a way. But, I think they've just gotten better and they understand each other a lot more. That chemistry is flowing in and out, and they're looking like a really solid team right now. I really wouldn't want to play them in the playoffs or even at all during this season, frankly, especially with Napheesa Collier on the court. But on the flip side, I was really interested to see how Paige Bueckers would fit in with the Wings. And I know it's early, but I just have been kind of underwhelmed by this Wings team. I didn't expect them to, win like all of their games flat out, but I did expect them to maybe get one or two wins, and they could still be trying to figure out the chemistry. It's a new coach. It's a very brand new team in a way, but I just think that they're not quite there yet. And I still think they're, tweaking some things out, maybe with the lineups or kind of their style of play. But, in terms of Paige Bueckers, I think she's doing enough because it doesn't just fall on her ultimately. and she's not having an explosion just yet, but they're also only a couple games in. So I think as it kind of progresses, she'll be the one to score the most points on the night. Maybe Rike Gumbawale does that as well, but I expect her to lead this team forward, and I think she's on her way to solidifying herself as the point getter because she seems quite fearless to me. She seems like she's hungry and she's in this league to compete, as with all other rookies. But I think she wants to show the world that, she's a number one pick for a reason. She has undeniable talent, and I'm excited to see what she's going to do with this Wings team. But I just think that they need to tweak some things out before they can get in that win column.
Yeah, I mean, like you were saying, it's still early for them. It is going to be definitely a work in progress all season. This team is basically almost starting over. And then also they brought in some new pieces like Dejanay Carrington. So like you said, everything just got to melt together during the season. I already said that I thought that was going to be a bottom 3 team in the W this season just because of the newness of the situation that they're in. But I mean, they're going to work it out. With Paige Becker, she's going to, like we was saying, we kind of compare her to Caitlin Clark. She's going to have some standout games here and there, but it's definitely not going to be like it was at UConn. It's definitely going to be a work in progress. But speaking of MVP, the Plum Dog is showing out so far for the LA Sparks. 5 games in, she's second in the W in points. She's first in 3-pointers. I think she's like top 10 in assists. The LA Spark are a top 5 offense. They are starting to flip their fortune from the last couple of seasons, and they're led by Kelsey Plum, who already said that I think she's gunning for MVP. She has the reins. She is the unquestioned leader of a team. She got the championship pedigree. It's just time to go for it. I mean, they still got some things to do. They're 2-3. So that means, it's up and down right now. And I think their point differential is, not that far from the positive. But I mean, we looking at a Sparks team they're gonna get better as the season go on. They're gonna get better as the season go on. Rickea Jackson is going to continue to find it. Hopefully Cameron Brink could come back at some point. But I'm excited to see how the Sparks pan out for the next few weeks, see where they can be at. Hopefully they can get above 500 by the time we hit the WNBA All-Star mark, and they'll take it from there. Right now they're sitting on the outskirts of one of the ACs, but like I said, I think if they put it all together, they gunning for a top 5 seed. They got the talent to do that. And then also, since I'm a Syracuse grad, master's program. You're a Syracuse as well. We got to shout out Brittany Sykes.
Most definitely have to shout out Brittany Sykes.
Yeah, how you feel about the direction of the Washington Mystics? Do you like what they're doing so far?
So far, yeah, I don't think they've had a terrible start to the season. I think it's an interesting kind of mix of players. You've got some veterans in there and a lot of kind of rookies or, maybe some players that have, a couple years experience. But I think it's kind of like a refresher for them as well as with most teams in the league. But I like their play so far. They seem to be really aggressive on the ball. And I think those younger players have this also aggression to them that really helps them just move the ball and always kind of be a pest as well on defense. They have some wins and they also have some losses, and that's what most teams do. It's really early on in the season, but I do like the direction they're heading in. I think it's a good reliance on kind of some of the younger players, like one of them being Sonia Citron, rookie, and, some of the veterans as well. But I think they have good chemistry so far. And I think they can continue it, and they could be one of those teams that maybe kind of sneak in the rankings in the playoffs as well. I don't think they'll end up towards the bottom half of the WNBA. Like, they might be the 7th or 8th seed, but they could definitely cause some problems if they do make the playoffs. And I just think that they kind of have the mentality of everything didn't really go right last year, but this season is brand new, and I like some of the looks that they're generating on the offense and especially on the defense as well. It seems like they've really kind of honed in on that a little bit and are starting to lock things down and make it really difficult for teams to play against them.
Yeah, they're a team that I look at that has really nothing to lose. Them and the Connecticut Sun, because everything has blown up over the past few seasons with both those teams, but in particular the Washington Mystics. So, they got a new direction. Everybody's trying to prove it right now on their roster. And I think it's going to make for exciting basketball. Got a quiz for you. Got a couple questions.
Okay.
We'll see. We'll see if you know these answers. I think you do. Like when I was coming up with the questions, I'm like, yeah, she gonna get these, but we'll see. All right, question number 1. We all know that the Houston Comets won the first 4 WNBA titles to start off the WNBA. Who was the second team to win a WNBA championship after those first 4?
Second team. It's a good question. I think if my memory serves me correctly, it's a team that's we mentioned earlier, who Kelsey Plum's team. I think I'm going to go with the LA Sparks.
And you are correct. It was the LA Sparks. They actually won the next 2.
Oh, that's right.
Champion. Yeah.
I think, they went back to back. Yeah.
Yeah. And after that, the Detroit Shock, which I wish they were back, but
I know.
Yeah.
Maybe.
It's okay.
Maybe we'll see a resurgence of. I think Detroit has to have a WNBA team.
No, Houston Comets need to have the WNBA team.
Bring that back.
Come on, y'all. What are we doing here?
It's too bad a lot of gone but not forgotten, I guess.
Yeah. All right. Speaking of WNBA finals, which team has the most appearances in the WNBA finals? Which franchise? The most appearances?
I don't want to say it was one of the older teams, but
you cooking a little bit.
I feel I think it's probably one of those older teams that was very dominant,
Okay, you're getting a little warmer now.
Yeah. Because there's a couple teams in my head that, especially the Houston Comets being one of them.
I will say they're still in existence.
That's true. Oh, let me see. So I'm going to see if I can go year by year and try and remember.
Let me see if I give you another hint. They also, with the Houston Comets, they also won 4 championships.
Okay, that's good to know. Okay, so that definitely narrows it down. I'm going to go with Detroit.
Nah, it's not Detroit.
No? Okay, because I know. Though they have 3, I think, right?
Yeah, they got something like that, 2 or 3.
Okay. Which team?
The Minnesota Lynx.
Oh!
7 appearances.
Wow, I think that threw me off just because they haven't. I mean, they obviously have won, but it's been just a little bit.
Yeah, those are the Maya Moore days.
Oh, yeah, when she was. Okay, that makes sense. She was
just
dominant.
Turning it up.
Yeah,
just turning it up. Also, I learned the Seattle Storm has 4 championships and 0 losses in the finals.
It was probably when Sue Bird and Breonna Stewart and
definitely.
Lloyd. Yeah, that core, you could not get past that team.
Oh no, yeah. You talking about 3 all-time great franchises, but okay, you were 1 for 2. You were 1 for 2.
Okay, it's okay.
In baseball terms, that's good.
Yeah, 50%. It's not horrible.
Oh man! All right, so let's go on to the second topic. We got some unfortunate news regarding Caitlin Clark. Caitlin McDonough. Can you tell us about what's going on with Caitlin Clark? What happened?
As a Caitlin, wish nothing but health to all the other Caitlins out there. But yeah, it's tough. But I think if there was a time to get injured, obviously I would never want any player to get injured or have to go through any sort of rehab or miss multiple games, But I think if there was a time to get injured, this might be one of the better times to get injured because she is not missing prime time basketball. I think if she got injured closer to the playoffs, that might dampen the fever, but it's still very early in the season, and I think they said she'd be out for 2 weeks, was it?
Yeah, a couple weeks.
And so a couple weeks. And honestly, if you're a Fever fan, I don't think you should be too worried, just because maybe if it was last year, you'd be a little bit more worried, but I think their depth this year, especially who they can bring off the bench, should be able to carry the most of the load, and they might scrap out a couple wins here and there, and because you won't have her dominance scoring whenever really she wants, chucking up threes. I mean, no one else can do that. Mm-hmm. But honestly, it's tough, and I think it'll actually might be a good thing just to see because Caitlin's human. She's gonna have off nights sometimes, or she could have a stretch where she's not producing the same numbers that she should be. So I think what this gives Stephanie White is the chance to try out players, maybe in new positions, or drop some plays that will work when teams are face guarding Clark, or when they're just completely locking her down and having some of the best defenders on her. Because, I mean, at the end of the day, she is the face of the franchise, but this gives more incentive, I think, and this is also a chance for other players to step up, because if she is having an off night, well, hey, this is what I did when she wasn't here. Give me the ball. I can do this when she is struggling, and I can pick up that load. And ultimately, that's what teammates are for, right? When one of them goes down, they all rally around, and they're professionals, so it's not like they're gonna drop off immensely. But I think Stephanie White will just have to get a little bit creative with some of the plays she draws up. They might have to use the paint more and kind of do a little bully ball. But I think their 3-point shooting, it might dip a little bit, which is fine because you don't have to shoot threes to win games. But I think they're kind of more focused maybe on perimeter, and this also might give them a chance to really solidify what their defense looks like too.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I would say it is kind of a message to the rest of the team that when Caitlin Clark doesn't have it, or when she's out, what are we going to do? Because we can't solely rely on her to do everything. I mean, like, she's scoring at the pace we expected her to. She's at the top as far as assists. So it's like, it's about everybody else. Let's try to establish everybody else while she's out for these 2 weeks. I mean, I would say also, I don't think that they have an excuse to lose more often than win while she's out. Because like I said, and you kind of agree, they have what it takes to be a top 4 seed in the WNBA at their fullest potential. Outside of Caitlin Clark, they still have reputable players on this team. Aaliyah Boston, who's solid. You got DeWanna Bonner, who's breaking records. She just moved herself up for us all-time scoring. You have Kelsey Mitchell, one of the most underrated players in the WNBA, who can score. She can't shoot threes like Caitlin Clark, but she could damn sure score just like Caitlin Clark too in a number of ways. And you have a pretty nice bench. You have a head coach who been a part of winning franchises, winning programs. There shouldn't be that much of a drop off when it comes to the Indiana Fever. But I will say, like I agree with you. I think this is a chance for Aaliyah Boston to kind of shine a little bit more. I want her to get the ball in the post. I know she's a solid 15 points per game score, but I would love to see her jump up into like 20 or near 20 while Caitlin Clark is out. And then you play that inside-out game, have DeWanna Bonner come off the dribble, have Kelsey Mitchell waiting on the perimeter to make some moves. But I would say the only thing they're going to be missing is that floor general. Like Caitlin Clark is, who, she can do it all. She can do everything. And they're going to be missing the point guard aspect of that. But I don't think this calls for like a dip in their play. They're just going to have to play differently. That's all.
Yeah, and, going back, you said the floor general, I think they will probably miss some of the creativity and the passes that she can provide, and get it kind of into tight spaces where you might, maybe someone, the average player can't really get in and her vision on the court. But I agree with you. I think Aaliyah Boston, this is her time. I don't want to say she's struggled, but I don't think she's had the same kind of maybe dominance or performances that myself or maybe a couple other people kind of thought coming out when she was coming out of college, just because she was so dominant in college, But I think this is her chance to show her coach and also show her teammates, give me the ball in the paint. I can put them up. I can get rebounds. And I think that'll be key as well when Clark isn't here, is make sure they get offensive rebounds, because that's another chance to just run through a offensive cycle or an offensive play. It's a chance to try something new. So I think rebounds will be very key, because I don't think their defense is going to struggle. I think with or without Clark, their defense is sort of in the same-ish shape. But their offense definitely is going to look a little bit different. But yeah, I think the onus is on Boston, or maybe even someone like a Lexi Hull or Sophie Cunningham, for them as well, to just elevate their game just a little bit. And anyone that's coming off the bench, we talk about nothing to lose, teams with nothing to lose. These players, I don't want to say they don't have nothing, they don't have something to lose. They could always lose playing time, I guess. But I think this is for them to kind of just go out there and play not with any pressure, just because, people do expect people to miss shots and this team to not have the same offensive looks. But if I'm a player that's on the bench, I'm kind of like, this is my chance, and I'm going to take it. I'm going to do what I think is right in the moment, and I'm just going to go out there and play week in and week out, not really thinking too much about everything.
Yeah, and what they don't want is the narrative to pop up that they can't do anything without Caitlin Clark. Because we remember how this team was before the Caitlin Clark effect kicked in. They were bad. I mean, they had the back-to-back number 1 overall pick for a reason. So I don't think they want that narrative to pop up in the media. All eyes right now are on the Indiana Fever, and this be an opportunity to, keep that going, keep that rallying going, because like I said, they have a great team outside of her. I mean, those are 4 players that the Chicago Sky need right now. But I think they'll be fine for the next couple of weeks, but we shall see what's going on. Like you said, I think the positive, like, you don't want nobody to get injured. You don't want nobody to get injured, but the positive is it's early on in the season. They only have played like 4 games, so they have that going forward. So I think she's going to be healthy the rest of the way. She has to do a lot for this team. So like we both said, this be a chance for somebody else to shine, so that way that they could take the load off her. But speaking of the Chicago Sky, we have Caitlin. We have to talk about this team. What is going on with this team? They have the worst point differential in the WNBA by far, 24.3, minus 24.3. Nobody on the roster is scoring 10 points per game, Caitlin. Nobody. The most person that's scoring is Courtney Vandersloot, who is probably the oldest player on the roster.
She's like 35 maybe?
35, 36. Yeah. And with 9.7 points per game. And then we all keep on hearing them this same old story with Angel Reese. As a person, as a woman, I admire her tenacity and everything, but as a player, it's the same old story to start off with, just missing easy shots, just trying to dribble the ball up the court for some reason. I don't know why she's doing that, but the Connecticut Sun are towards the bottom too. But at least they got a player in the top 25, top 30 in the league that's in scoring. How 9.7 points per game is your high? Caitlin, break this down. What is going on with the Chicago Sky? Is it they missing some players on their roster? Is it lack of development? Is it coaching? Is it the players themselves? What you think is going on with them?
I think it's just a combination of all of that, truthfully. They also have a brand new head coach, someone who hasn't had experience in that position before. So he's going to struggle in his role. Yes, he also came from the Aces, but you can't really expect someone to just take off when this is their first coaching gig, not to mention in the WNBA, a very competitive league where you can't just get by on talent alone. You have to have a game plan. You have to have sets. You have to have a plan B, C, D, E, when everything kind of goes wrong. And that's what's going wrong right now, I think, is they don't have somebody that can consistently get them points. I think they don't have bad players, and that's what I don't understand about this lineup, because it's not horrible. Like, this lineup should be producing more numbers than it actually does. But I just think when you look at this lineup, I think, and it might sound very crazy, but I think this lineup is just too balanced. Like, I don't think there's somebody that is better at scoring and can get you offensive looks and and just points in general. Like, there's no one that's their go-to scorer, maybe besides Courtney Vandersloot. But again, she's 35, 36. She doesn't have the same bounce to her step that someone that's 26 does. It's, and I just think they have players that are too balanced. They're very good at offense and they're very good at defense, but there's just not someone there that's give me the ball every single time we go down the court. I'm going to drain a bucket, or I'm going to put a layup in. Like, someone like Kelsey Plum, she's someone that always wants the ball no matter what. Caitlin Clark always wants the ball no matter what. And I don't think that the Sky have somebody who is comfortable enough with getting the ball. And I think Angel Reese can be that player, but I just think there's so much pressure on her as well. And it could be getting to her head too, just because every single move she makes is getting scrutinized by the media, by fans, by everyone. But they just need to find someone that's comfortable enough with having the ball in their hands, and you're going to be our primary look on offense. We're trusting you to get things done. And I just think they're just missing something. I think they're missing that selfishness from somebody, which is crazy to say in basketball because it's one of the most team-focused sports. But I just think they need someone that's got that knack for scoring and that does have that selfishness, that not only wants to score points, but wants to score as much as possible, but can also get it done on the defense. Because I don't think they're a bad team. I just don't think they've found their rhythm yet. And they just need to change up their style of play a little bit. And if you look at their bench as well, there's no one. I mean, maybe I think he has to tweak the lineups a little bit because it's not working. And you cannot get to a point in the season where you were like 0-12 or something and then starting to tweak. You kind of have to confront these things early on if you do want to have a successful season. And I think it's tough because this guy last season weren't particularly great. There was kind of a lot of I think individual talent was there, but I just think when it comes to playing as a team, I just think they might be caught in, two different minds on what to do. Like whether they should, I don't know, I think they're just caught in two different minds sometimes when they go down the court, and it could just be also overthinking as well. And that might be a coaching issue too. He is new and he wants to make a name for himself, but he might have to go back to the basics of basketball. But we'll see what happens with this franchise.
Yeah, I think coaching has a little bit to do with it because he gotta develop the talent that he already has. And like you said, this is his first go around coming from the Aces. I mean, he's used to that playoff caliber type of basketball, that pedigree, but it's time to put those X's and O's together. You got to come up with a game plan to simplify the game for those players, because that front court, which I think is impressive with Angel Reese and Camila Cardoso, right now they're being exposed as being like limited offensively. Those are not featured players that you want the ball in their hands a lot. You want them to play like outside in, try to feed them down low, put them in the right position so that way they can make one or two moves and then they can score and go up and get rebounds too as well, offensively and defensively. So got to try to simplify the game if you're the head coach of Chicago Sky. And I agree with you. I think they're missing something offensively in the backcourt. This is
Mhm.
why I was banking on them trying to get Paige Beckers in the draft, because I knew that going in. I thought that was something they could have attacked or they should have tried to attack in free agency as well, because you got the front court players that's going to get you the rebounds, the second chance points, it's going to play defense, but you don't have nobody to facilitate your offense. Don't have anybody that can score almost at will in that coming from that backcourt. So they are definitely missing that piece. And right now, I don't know where that's going to come from. Maybe they can try to make a move at the deadline or something, trying to get something in the draft next year, trying to entice a free agent next year. But right now, I just don't see it with this team. Also, I would say, as controversial as she was, they missing Trinity Carter. I mean, she was like 17 and a half points per game. Right now, she's in Mexico signing body parts. but but um but they missing her. That's a big chunk of their offense that just went away just like that disappeared just like that. So I mean, I don't think they, unfortunately, I don't know if she's going to come back to the W. I don't know about that, but yeah, they just like you said, they just missing somebody that's offensively strong and gifted in that front court. It's just, I don't, man, 24-point differential on the negative. I would say they 7th grace. It is very young in the season. However, you can't rely on that, because when you get to 25 games, half the season is gone already. So like you said, you got to start now. Like by the time we hit mid-June, you got to establish something. You got to establish some sort of offensive identity.
Yeah, I agree. You can't let it get to a point where like this is just the culture of a losing team, because once that sets in, then the season's gone. Once the players are just so used to losing, and you can see it, like there's a body language shift when teams get accustomed to losing, where after the game they're not angry, they're not disappointed, they're kind of just like mellow out. That's when you know that something's not right. And I haven't seen too much of that yet, which is good. I think the players on that roster, they can fight, but yeah, like you meant, they're just missing that X factor that can potentially draw a double team, and you can move the ball around, find the open person, and score easy buckets. Because I just think if you're going against this guy, there's no really reason to double team someone, right? There's no one that's going to draw in multiple defenders, but maybe they just need to start setting picks, creating space, creating good looks. Because, I mean, at the end of the day, and this is something that the coach has to address as well, and maybe the front office has to, kind of say, or maybe implicitly say, like, is this going to be a development year for the players that you have? Like, do you want to create this core? Is this the core that you want? And are we just going to have to let them work out their chemistry and let them sort of establish themselves, so when next season you can have a better go around at this? Or, because I feel like they're just in this weird kind of tango almost, where it's like they want to win, but I just look at this roster and I'm just like, I don't know. I think there's a lot of uncertainty with this team. I don't think the front office maybe knows that this team specifically will win them games and get them in the playoffs. And I think they need to start, they need to get somewhere. They need to bring players in, and maybe it's signing someone on a 10-day contract, right? Players who have been cut already off of rosters, they want to prove something. So you can look at players that have already been cut, because also they have nothing to lose either, right? Brand new team, they've already been cut before, so they're used to the feeling, and they can get that energy and that buzz going, because it literally just takes one player, one person to kind of be that spark, and the dominoes will fall with it. And I don't think they have somebody who is that spark just yet. And like I said, it might be a rebuilding year, but if it's a rebuilding year, they're going to have to be content with losing a ton of games. And they could follow in the Sparks' footsteps, honestly, and have a pretty losing season, but then pick up somebody lucrative in the offseason next year that is that offensive threat that might be out of contract or wants to be a face of a team and wants more playing time than they're already getting. So it is early, so might be overreacting a little bit, but they definitely need to start changing just something, like one or two things before the whole season's gone, before they know it.
Well, this was the end of episode 2 of season 2 of Around the W, dedicated to women's basketball here on Stacey on Sports. Once again, I'm your host, Stacey Carter II, joined by the Caitlin McDonough. Follow Stacey on Sports everywhere on social media at Stacey on Sports. Caitlin, what's your socials? Plug in your socials.
Caitlin A. McDonough, and then my Twitter, or X actually, is just Caitlin McDonough. I guess. That's one way to put it.
Okay. All right, we'll see y'all next time. Keep on watching the WNBA. Support women's basketball. Support women's sports everywhere.